Personally, I think the future is such that every city will be quite dense. This is happening across the world. Even in places like Australia, you will see now that in Melbourne and Sydney, a lot of the developments are moving back into the city. Yeah. In the past, the city has grown by growing out. And now they find that because the city is so wide and so huge, the infrastructure services to support it is actually not tenable. And in Melbourne, for example, you literally will probably spend 45 minutes to an hour to get to the office every day. Imagine getting there 1 hour, back another hour. You have 2 hours of unnecessary time where you could actually spend quite meaningfully. So to me, I think gradually cities will be up. Yeah. And also, that's why in Singapore we are looking at building down. Yeah, is to make sure that we have enough space. Yeah. I think in Singapore, the original planning, 6-7 million is actually very low. 10 million is achievable. I think future generation will have to cater to even more than that. And really, to be for a city to be really economical, yeah, you need certain sizing. If you don't have certain sizing, you don't have that economy of scale, and therefore, your services will be higher and you will not be tenable. Yeah. So cities need to be up to certain size. My view, above 10 million is something that we should be looking at. Personal view, okay. I always say that what is must have and what is good to have. You need a fair balance. You cannot just push sustainability and environment to the hill, because the cost will be just too phenomenal and the returns won't be there. So things like how we treat our rubbish, I think we need to be careful with that. Yeah. In the past, we used landfill. Yeah. Now we are incinerating. Of course, there are other methods of doing that. Today, our consumption and our rubbish has actually gone up quite substantially. So that, I think, is one sector. The other water is, of course, the other factor that is also equally important is water. Water is getting more and more scarce. Actually, in Singapore, we are probably one of the few countries in the world that has started 20, 30 years ago, and that is because we are reliant on the Malaysian source. So today we are about 80-85% self-sufficient. A lot of you probably won't know, we trap all the rainwater that comes in, put it back into the reservoir. We treat all our sewer water. So today we dam up our river to make sure that over time it becomes a fresh water body. So we have done a lot, but not a lot of countries are adopting the same way as it is. Yeah. But even so, you will see that now the cost of water is going up. So conservation of water to us is actually very critical. Yeah. While we have taken steps to enlarge our potable water, be self-sufficient and so on, the growth of potable water usage is actually growing quite rapidly. There's no way we can answer that. That's why government is very concerned. And one of the drivers is really to make sure that the cost of that is high, so that it forces us to make sure that we conserve water. So I think some of these measures need to be put in place, but there is no hard and fast rule. Yeah. Building, for example, needs to be efficient. One of the R&D projects that we are doing is really to look at cooling by LNG. So we are starting an R&D project to locate LNG storage within the building. And as you use the LNG converted from liquid to gas, we use that cold energy to cool the building. Yeah. So these are some of the things that we need to do, because if we don't do that, we will have to keep on buying energy. Yeah. Energy, is only generated by coal in Singapore, especially, or gas or oil. We don't have hydro, unfortunately. Yeah. Can't create a big waterfall and flow the mountain and extract the power. We need to be very careful with some of the things. You may think that it is not necessary, but I think as the economy grows, as we get more sophisticated, the demand for some of the resources actually increases quite exponentially. You all individually may not feel it, but as a nation, yeah, you will see that. Yeah. So things like power generation is something that we look at quite carefully. Actually, it's true. We are actually working out a project with Shibetsu to look at floating cities. Yeah, building cities in the water. We haven't gone to look at how to cut the bottom of Singapore yet. So that one, not yet, but I think it's a great idea.
Cannot ask why not.
Yeah. We haven't, but it's a good idea. But we're actually working on floating cities. How do we build cities in the sea? And how do we service it, and how do we engineer that? So we are starting some programs with Shibetsu. Yeah. As you all know, in Haneda Airport, part of the runway is actually a floating runway. Yeah. So we are looking at some of these new concepts. Yeah, definitely it's something that we are looking at. I think sometimes we got to do a lot of persuasion. Yeah. It's true, some clients have very fixated idea about what they want to do. So one of the things that we do is, because we are operating in 40 countries and we have seen all the various developments, what we do is we bring the client to see some of the concepts that we want to implement. I'll give you an example. Recently we have a big group from Philippines, one of the top developers in Philippines, who wanted to develop a residential project that is in close proximity with the reservoir. And the authorities in Philippines was quite against that development. So we brought the developer plus the authority down to Singapore, and we let them see what we have done in Bedok, quite near to the reservoir, and how we divert water, rainwater and so on, away from the reservoir, and how we then cater to sewer treatment, and how we make sure that some of the industries that goes within that area don't have discharge. So they were convinced after that even building quite near to the reservoir has got no major issue. So a lot of the times is really education. The good thing about Singapore is that we are so used to building in very close environment. Yeah. Actually, that's one of our key strengths. Yeah. We are able to accommodate a lot of activities even though our space is very limited. Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand that. So sometimes when they look at issues and how to solve that issues, they give the client very expensive solution. Yeah. And that is why we want to project ourselves quite differently to the client. Yeah. We will look at the solution and we will give them the best that we think at the present moment will be sufficient. And that's because in Singapore we are unique. You don't have that density anywhere in the world in terms of the population. So we tend to look at things a bit more further. We plan for the eventuality, but when we implement in modules. Yeah. Our planning and our way we solve some of the issues are really very critical now for cities, because their cities when they plan it, they don't plan it that way. I want you to reflect on Singapore. If you recall, when we first started our manufacturing activities, so we started from labor-intensive, garment manufacturing, all very labor-intensive industry. Today, you don't find that in Singapore. So the question is, what do you do with these people? Sunny and I comes from EDB, and we know. So we constantly think about how do we upgrade our industry, go into new areas and so on. So Singapore has been very good in doing that. One of the reasons why today we are so progressive is because here our governments keep thinking, how do we rejuvenate the industry, how do we attract the next industry, next round of industry, and we've been very good in doing that. I cited garment. Manufacturing. We used to make a lot of garments, but now I don't think you'll find one in Metro or the department store that says it's made in Singapore. You can't find it. What do we do with those garment sewers? Have you ever wondered? So what did we do? We attracted an American company that does heart valves. You know, the valves for the heart replacement, that are sewn manually. And one of the reasons why they come and sell out in Singapore is because they find that we have that skill set. So my answer to you is this: as a government, we need to be progressive and forward thinking in attracting new industry. And my Jurong arm has been instrumental in following this progress. Yeah. I give you an example. We developed new building topology that will be able to help manufacturers lower their total manufacturing costs. We're just finishing a poultry processing plant here, multi-story, yeah, where we take live chicken in on the ground floor, and on the top floor mix McNuggets. But each of the floor, okay, is not owned by the same manufacturer, different manufacturer. They share common services. Yeah. So in this way, we are able to keep on attracting new forms of industry. I'm doing now the next generation of fresh food distribution center for NTUC. Yeah. Totally automated food security features, yeah, with modern disposal of all the waste and so on. So as a nation, we must keep on growing. We must look at new things, We must attract new industry. Yeah. So I have every confidence that if there's any country in the world that can cater to this, disruption and job change, Singapore is the place.